Dots, the temperatures in Manor Lawn are 12 degrees. What do you think of that, huh? I'd say you had a little chuckle when you heard that, did you?
I did.
Jim, what's the temperature out like around the Copper Coast there? Have you been out for your constitutional walk yet?
My 2 kilometre, not yet. Not yet. I was waiting to talk to you and the Manor Lawn man.
The Manor Lawn man. The headline in the Irish Times last week was, what was it? Manor Lawn man wins award, something like that, huh?
Yeah. The News and Star.
The News and Star. Yeah. The Irish Times wouldn't get the importance of that Manor Lawn thing. Brian Doherty, thanks very much for taking our call this morning. Jim Nolan, playwright, thank you very much for taking our call. First thing is, Brian, congratulations. Well done.
Thank you very much. I'm delighted about it.
Well done. You were awarded as part of the 23rd Irish Times Irish Theatre Awards, Best Actor for your role as Agamemnon in Hecuba by Marina Carr, and a role of Dog in The Red Iron by a chap by the name of Jim Nolan, this up-and-coming new playwright. Tell us, you're in London at the minute. How are you keeping first?
We're doing good here. Myself, my wife, my daughter, we're in the house obeying the rules, and we're hoping the weather gets better. Although we had a lovely day yesterday, so that did help. And but yeah, we're the same as everybody else, dealing with it one day at a time, you know.
Have you space to go around the house, or have you a balcony, or have you a back garden? Because we see people on the telly going down to the parks, I suppose, in London in particular.
Yeah, I mean the house is not huge, and we have a little back garden, which is great. That is a good help, and we try to get out each day for our bit of exercise, keeping well away from everybody else, you know. So I mean, we went for a walk yesterday, and we didn't see many groups of people, which was good, and people were keeping their distance from one another, you know, as far as we could see anyway. So
yeah,
it's I think we're probably, because we're so much contact with Ireland, we're probably more aware of it all, because Ireland was a lot quicker in getting the rules out there and getting people aware of them. So I think we were probably a little bit ahead of the game there, you know.
Yeah. Jim, you have a nice area to walk around out there. I presume you do your 2 kilometres, then you turn back, then you go again, and then you turn back again. Is that it, or how does it work?
I kind of edit it out over the day. We get out early in the morning, Trudy and myself, and then we go back out in the evening, and we do stick to the perimeters. But we're terribly, terribly lucky compared to people, who aren't allowed out, like in certain parts of Europe or in the cocooning here. So we consider ourselves to be very fortunate in these terrible times. So great to be able to see a bit of sunlight.
It is, yeah. I'm going to talk about the Red Iron in a second. Firstly, a technically superb Aisling McGuckin shines in the title role. This is in Hecuba by Marina Carr, while Brian Doherty brings fully to life the contradictions of a well-written part of Agamemnon. Did you enjoy acting in that play, Brian?
Yeah, I mean, Marina Carr's script is phenomenal, and it's very unusual in its construction, because people talk about themselves in the third person. They describe what's happening, but what they're describing isn't always the reality of the piece. It's about who owns history in a lot of ways, who gets to tell the story. And it was a challenge, but one of those challenges that you live for, in terms of how well it was written, and as well how well it was directed by Lynn Parker, and Rough Magic production of it was just a real exciting and difficult and great thing to be involved in, you know. So it was wonderful.
Yeah, and again, history, as the cliche goes, is written by the winners, but she effectively turned it around. I won't ask you, obviously, the politically important question, who's the better writer, herself or Jim Nolan? That would be...
Go on, ask him.
OK, go on, Brian. Who's the best? The line will suddenly go down.
I always find those questions crazy anyway, because to compare one with the other is nonsense in a lot of ways, you know. They're so.
I don't mind the comparison. She's a wonderful writer. Can I say, Damien? I happen to have seen Dots. I travelled up there to see a matinee performance of Dots doing Agamemnon and Hecuba, And we were about to start rehearsal 3 weeks later, and I was in awe of what I was looking at that afternoon. And just as a director, I was saying, I'm going to have my hands full with this guy. Even though I'd worked with him all my life, I was very much aware this was an actor at the very top of his game. So it kind of raised the bar for us all when he came down to us a few weeks later.
So is he kind of like is he the Pogba of the theatre scene at the moment, is he?
I wouldn't say Pogba. You might be talking Mo Salah, maybe.
He's not contrary enough to be Pogba. No, yeah.
No. He gets the game every week.
He did a good political answer there. Like, he should be a politician. That was a very good way he answered that question, though, Jim, wasn't it?
I think the line must have dropped there. I didn't hear it.
There's layers underneath him. And regarding Hecuba, just described lovely. I read a number of the reviews, and a rich cultivated civilization destroyed by barbarian Greeks, smelling of goat shit and mackerel.
Wow, nice one.
Brian, did you get into that role very well? You did. You loved it. You did great with it.
That came naturally.
And tell me, Brian, I want to ask you a serious question. We'll get all serious for a second. Working with Jim and working with on the Red Iron, and again, there was a crowdfunding thing. We know all the financing and all that. I saw you on stage. You looked like to be really enjoying yourself, did you?
Yeah, well, it's when you get a role like that, and when you're involved in a play like that, it's the challenges like those that you live for in a lot of ways, because just before you're going on, you're going, right, here we go, and you know you've got a mountain to climb with it, but that's a mountain you've been training to climb all your life, you know. So it's those challenges that you live for, and with Dog in the Red Iron, those parts, they don't come around very often, and so you do your best to relish it while you have that chance. And theatre is a thing that, you know, it happens for a few nights or a few weeks or a few months, and then it's gone. So you have to kind of remind yourself to live those moments as much as you can, you know.
Yeah, he was a good man to work with, I'm told, Jim. He didn't get contrary or anything like that, did he?
Well, do I have to answer that?
Of course, yeah. This is your tough political question now.
Yeah, Dots and I go back an awful long way, way into the early 80s, just before the start of Red Kettle. And I had the privilege of working with him before he went to Dublin and to London on a lot of shows. So we know each other very well. There'd be a lot of, you know, decent regard for each other, what we can bring and how we can help the other one as an actor or as a writer or as a director. He was a joy to work with. And it's worth saying, Damien, especially in these dark times, it's not 4 months ago since we did that show. It seems now like a lifetime, like a different planet.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
More important than that, a year ago, this time last year, we didn't have, if I may say, a pot to piss in with this play. And it was people like Dots, along with the other actors, and people like the 150 funded people, my colleagues, Pádraig Ó Gríofa, Michael Grant, Mary Roach, and all of our sponsors who actually enabled that to happen. And it's a kind of reminder of, like, here we are a year on, we had a great success with it, and a wonderful sort of cap being put on that now with Dots' award. But a year ago we had nothing. And right now we're in a very dark place. And it's possible to be reminded today that we are going to get out of this. And that the theatre will be there too when things get better. So it's kind of like a little bit of a chink of light at a dark time. And it's just a reminder of what's possible, I suppose, is all I'd want to say about it.
Yeah, I was talking to an uncle of mine in Muswell Hill there just over the weekend, and he said this has been known as before COVID and after COVID. It's a phenomenal time, isn't it, Brian? Do you think, Brian, there's going to be plays written about this and movies?
I think inevitably it's going to leak into everything that we do and talk about for a while, you know. And who knows what ongoing repercussions there'll be down the line, you know. And will it affect people's behaviour? Will people automatically go back to giving each other hugs and shaking hands and doing all that? That's all yet to be seen. But I think Jim makes a good point in that, you know, it will pass, and people will get together again, and their life will return, and maybe, I don't know, maybe there'll be more appreciation of some parts of us, and you look for the light where you can, don't you?
You do, yeah. I want you just to be thinking for a second, as I asked Jim the final question, Brian, be thinking of your couple of favourite lines now from the Red Iron, if you don't mind. Jim, as the Queen said last night, we will meet again. Are you writing? Are you thinking of doing something, writing about this now?
Is that to me, Damien? I didn't hear the first part.
It is, Jim, yeah. Are you thinking of writing anything about this? It's.
I'll tell you, every day that Trudy and I go for a walk out here, and every day, somebody says, you'll get a play out of this. And I kind of nod politely. But what I think is, can you imagine in a year's time, whenever the light sort of, gets brighter, and if a couple were, say, sitting at home on a Friday night saying, what will we do tonight? Let's go and see that play about the coronavirus. My inclination would be, no, let's go see something else. So I want my daughter Megan was actually writing about this in the New Statesman last week, and on the subject of how much will change and what will it be like when we come back. And she said she wanted things to be the same. She just wanted what she had, the ordinary things. And I'm not sure that me personally, I'm that interested in writing about this, but who knows? I have a little play tossing around in my head, and there isn't the corona thing near it, thankfully. And we'll see where that brings us. But right now, no, let's get rid of it and move on.
I think you're right. Brian, can you give us a couple of lines from the Red Iron? Anything that...
That's a terrible thing to spring on a man. I'll tell you what I'll do.
Go on.
WLR. There's a line where somebody mentions Liz Reddy.
Yes.
And Doug goes, good looking woman, Liz Reddy. And he's told to shut up. He said, I'm only saying, approachable too. I was talking to her during the radio a few nights back. She's wearing well.
And she's on.
Damien,
go on, Jim. Yeah.
Marina Carr won't beat that.
You're 100% right there. She's on this morning. I can't see her at the minute out the window, but I'd say she's laughing at that.
Very approachable.
Listen, Brian, congratulations. So many texts coming in. You're in trigonometry as well, and BBC Two, and well done. Listen, Brian Doherty, Dots, mind yourself and your family over there, and take care, and congratulations again.
Thank you, Damien. Lovely to talk to you this morning.
Well done, Dots. And Jim Nolan, congratulations as well, and mind yourselves, okay? Yourself and Trudy and all the family. Take care, lads. Talk to you soon. Appreciate it. Appreciate you talking to me. Thank you very much for that. Lovely to talk to them, Brian Doherty, and he won, as you say, as we said, the Irish Times Theatre Award winner for Best Actor. Phenomenal performances around the country, in Dublin Fringe Festival, in so many different things, and by other actors. And for him to get that's a really, really strong award. So he won it for a combination of what he did in the Dublin Theatre Festival, and then also with playing the role of Dog in the Red Iron by Jim Nolan. And well done to Red Kettle Theatre Company with that. And just a little mention of, I suppose, the importance of how plays and theatre can play in that review of Hecaba. We watch ourselves watching as the characters themselves narrate, speak each other's lines, and generally engage in myth-making, or rather remaking. The effect of multiple points of view, of immediacy and distance, all intertwining, is utterly absorbing. And Dog was and is utterly absorbing, and Jim Nolan is an utterly absorbing playwright. Congratulations to all involved. Now, in a second, I'm going to be talking about Airbnbs, rental properties. If you're a landlord who is renting or renting a property, if you're a tenant, text us in, please. I'm going to be talking to Regina about that. Some texts and comments coming in. I went shopping there recently, and my shopping, same products that I would have bought week in, week out, has gone up by €50 out of €200. So normally I'd only spend 150 on the shopping. It went up to nearly 200. So it's gone up €50. This is so wrong. Are people experiencing this? Ask this person. Are shops putting up prices? Let us know what you think, please. 083 3333 975. Martina and Nikki texted in congratulations to Brian and also to Jim Nolan. Madeline has texted in a lovely story and condolences to Jenny Hill, and also well done to Philip. A few people texting about that. Other people texting about social distancing and the importance of social distancing. A woman was shopping at the weekend and two women were standing near her car. She asked them to move and they became very abusive, cursing at her and telling her to mind her own business, and they started hugging one another. I tried to tell them how irresponsible they were, and they'd no idea, and they continue to abuse me. I'm a nurse and I'm only trying to mind myself, and I only go shopping once a fortnight to minimise my contacts. And this is wrong. And this is at a shop in Waterford. Another person texted in about their mother. And the COVID-19 has come into their nursing home. It's not in Waterford, it's outside of Waterford in another county, and just finding it very difficult and very stressful regarding that. Regina Mangan, good morning.
Good morning, Jamie, and good morning to your listeners.
It is stressful in for so many different people across so many different areas. You run a letting agency and estate agents, Liberty Blue. Last week, the property website daft.ie reported an 83% jump in apartments in Dublin. And now we've got rental situations changing, I suppose, by the week. What is the situation in Waterford City and County, Regina?
Well, this morning on Daft, there are 64 properties to rent in Waterford City, of which half of those exactly are 2 beds. So I suspect about straight off that's 32 properties, and I'd say about 10 of those studying the adverts are probably Airbnb. So I don't think Waterford is having a massive influx of properties because of Airbnb lets now coming onto the long-term market. I can tell you that, there's a portion of those properties that are student properties coming back onto the market, 13 of them. Ourselves, we received 10 properties to the market that come in from a receiver, that a sale that had closed, so they're brand new stock to the market. So it's a combination of factors. I don't think it's one silver bullet.
Okay. Does this indicate what does this indicate from your perspective?
Well, I suppose the first thing is I always compare Waterford to Dublin, like Waterford and New York. So Dublin is not a typical sample of what's going on in the rest of the country. The amount of owners of properties that are on the Airbnb website in Dublin is enormous. So I think that's good for the Dublin market. It'll create more stock and more supply for tenants. In terms of Waterford, obviously we're operating in, I don't know how would I say, very strange conditions and frightening times. So the number one thing in everything that everybody does right now is about keeping people safe. So from our perspective, we're using the technology that we've invested in over the years, and we're very fortunate. We deal with a company called CCS. So they go in and they are part of one of the businesses that's essential services. So they go in and they clean property when people move, and they wear the correct clothing and they use all the correct cleaning materials that are required. So the most important thing when somebody is moving for us is that people are safe. And then we show them the property via our 360 tours and our videos that we took before the current lockdown. Then we meet people online through FaceTime and we're chatting to them, and then we use our reference checking platforms. They can sign their contracts online and all that kind of thing. There is still a demand, but I suppose we are saying if people don't need to move, now is not the time to move. That would be my advice.
Yes.
So, we're dealing with people predominantly in the healthcare sector, or people who choose to self-isolate. We had a few people contact us who'd flown in from the States. They weren't concerned that they had CV-19, but they were taking responsible actions and wanted to be around to drop shopping to older parents, but they didn't want to be in the same house. So I suppose there's been a demand in that way. We've had doctors, nurses, people working in nursing homes, and then we've people who were given notice before all of this happened, where landlords were moving back into properties, and so they had to find a home because, after all, it is one of the primary needs. So that hasn't changed. Okay.
Do you think there has been anything? Do you think landlords have been pushed aside in relation to this? Like, the rules have come in to say that you cannot evict anybody or put up rent for the next 3 months. Are you getting calls from landlords that are struggling themselves?
Well, I think I absolutely welcome that legislation. So first and foremost, this is unprecedented times. It's equivalent to war times, really, if you think about it. And for tenants, they need to have security of tenure. So most people are genuine, and, no, they shouldn't be given notice during this time. That's the first point I'd make. And the next thing is, I think the rent freeze, now there was a lot of confusion around that, and some people actually took that there was no rent for 3 months. That's not the case. It's a freeze on rent increases, and I think that's correct. And let's take it 3 months after the current climate, we'll say April, May, June, and let's just imagine that the restrictions were lifted for the 1st of July. I would see rents having stabilised, because after all, in order to give a rent increase, you have to give a rent review based on current rents, so rents will have stabilised. And I think it's not the time or the environment. Let's face it, the economy is badly impacted, and so people will have less money. And I think most landlords, I think, will, be reasonable and want to look after their good tenants. That's the total priority.
Yeah, I spoke, it's not a private matter in terms of a private house, but I spoke to a man this morning who got a letter from his landlord in a business-related matter looking for rent this week. His business is closed and he's not getting in any money. So a very difficult situation. He may not have the money to pay. That's a difficult situation, isn't it?
It is a very difficult situation. I think empathy is required on all fronts. And I think landlords, be it commercial or residential landlords, have to have empathy further. And if a business is closed, you can't get blood out of a stone. That's the first thing. If somebody can function and they can trade and they don't have reserves, they can't produce the money. And legislation is there to protect the tenants as well. I would say to anybody who's struggling to pay their rent, get in touch with your tenant, your landlord or your agent, and explain your predicament. And what we're asking people to do is to provide evidence from your employer to state that you've had a change of circumstances in your employment. And we address it case by case, and a good landlord should do the same.
Yes.
And I say to people, pay what you can afford to pay, and. I think we're seeing great things going on at the moment in terms of our community and people reaching out and the caring that's going on. I think it's very, very positive, and I think maybe we're all having time to reflect and maybe look at what actually really matters in life, and it's our family and our loved ones and our well-being, and that's everything.
I presume as well, Regina, your own company have had to put in place specific measures, people working from home and things like that as well.
Yes, we're fortunate that, as I said, we invest in the technology, and so we have, I suppose, the systems. But it's very difficult. We're in, everybody else, our own business has been impacted. Our income is way down. We are talking to people who are badly affected. But we've to soldier on and be grateful for what we have. I mean, we're still functioning to a degree. We're not selling. We've had a number of sales fall through because of uncertainty in the marketplace. People's personal wealth diminished. They can't afford to buy. So we'll see. Nobody knows how the sales market will be impacted over the next 12 to 18 months. So, but yeah, we've Maria working from home, and Caroline's looking after the maintenance from home, and Nora's looking after the rents, and I'm trying to keep everyone motivated to look after our clients.
Can I ask you, and hello to them all, a specific question from Sinead? Her son is home from UCC since mid-March. He's renting a house privately from a landlord, a student house. The landlord says the rent is due for April and May and still should be paid, €580 a month. Technically, I suppose the landlord is correct with this, but there's a difficult situation, isn't it?
Yeah, has he given notice and posted back his keys and given his notice in writing?
The lady hasn't said that. So if they haven't...
So what I'd say to everybody, right, the same principles apply. Make sure you have a copy of everything in writing. Send an email, post back your keys, explain your position, and go from there. And I don't think it's the time for landlords with students to play total hardball. I think it's all about a bit of give and take, and to try and work out an agreeable solution. And that's the best route, I would say. But the written word vital in this situation.
Okay. Regina, to you and your staff and everybody, thank you very much and mind yourself, okay, and your family.
Thank you. Stay safe, everybody. Thank you, Damien. Bye.
Thank you, Regina. Regina Mangan there from Liberty Blue. Some texts and calls coming in. Are property prices going to come down in the near future? Well, the experts are saying they probably will, but we just don't know what's going to happen. Is the new section of St. Pat's Hospital opening today? Do your listeners or any of your listeners know? Ask this person. Are children allowed to walk and cycle the roads with their parents? Yeah, they're not part of the cohort of people over the age of 70 that are supposed to stay in. The whole episode is kicking the ass, says Maggie. It'll make us appreciate everything and particularly the traditional skills that we may have lost. So many people texting in. Well done to Jim Nolan and to Dots as well. 2 70-year-olds at home. One of them phoned in. We usually walk 4 miles a day, so my husband is getting his 4 miles in the kitchen, walking, listening to WLR and listening to Deise today. Thank you very much for that. There's been a big increase in the price of some cleaning products, says this texter. I've just noticed that. Keep your texts and comments coming in, please. 083 3333 975. Paul phoned in to say, just on the Link Road, there's a sulky going up and down with 2 children on it. No more than their youngsters. No more than 5, says Paul. Text and comments, please. And you can phone 051 846 123. Now, in a minute, I'm going to be talking to John Cummins about his recent success in the Shannon election. Damien, can you find out, please, what's the story if your car or van is up for the NCT or DOE test and they're closed? What's the story if the guards stop you? What can happen? My understanding is ring the Garda station. I was talking to a guard over the weekend about this, and they say that there will be leniency given by the guards, but that obviously has to be confirmed by the Gardaí themselves. Also, I texted again this morning to find out if Simon Harris has actually signed these regulations for the guards, that they can enforce these laws. He still hasn't signed it. I find that bizarre. 10 days now since the government announced the guidelines regarding travel regulations and, inverted commas, restrictions, and the Gardaí are still operating under the Public Order Act, that they don't actually have these restrictions in place in terms of their regulations. Simon Harris has to sign these, and he still hasn't done it, which I find very strange. Senator John Cummins, good morning.
Good morning, Damien. How are you?
I'm good. Senator Cummins, how does it sound?
Oh, strange, I suppose. Yeah, I think you're probably the first person to say it out loud to me, other than some of the lads having a bit of a slag with me, you know. So.
Well, the first thing is congratulations, and obviously Senator Cummins relates also to your father, and you're following in illustrious footsteps, I think a lot of people would say.
Yeah, look, obviously it's a great honour to be elected to national office. I'm told that there has been less than 1,000 senators in the history of the state, so to join that role of honour is you know, hugely humbling. So I'm very grateful to everyone that has helped me along the way over the last 11 years in politics, not least my own dad, but my family, my friends, my supporters, and the Fine Gael organisation in Waterford. So I'm very much looking forward to being, the Fine Gael national representative here now in Waterford.
Like, obviously you didn't get elected, you tried very hard and you ran a very good campaign right up to the end in terms of nearly getting elected in the general election, which now seems like decades ago, doesn't it? Oh, it really does, yeah. And you've been elected now to the Shannon. Whenever that is going to sit, we know there's issues in relation to government formation, and the Taoiseach has to appoint his nominees, but a caretaker Taoiseach cannot appoint nominees. So have you anything to indicate at this stage, John, how things are going to play out over the next while?
No, look, you've summarised it very well yourself there. Government formation talks continue, obviously, while the government is focused on this COVID-19 crisis and the handling of it. There's a select number of people that have been in discussions with Fianna Fáil and with other parties in relation to the formation of a government. I understand that this week that there's going to be a common platform of principles outlined between both Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil, and then they will be approaching smaller parties and independents about joining. that government. But look, obviously that's a matter for those other parties and independents, whether they want to come on board and form a government. And obviously we know what happens if no government is formed. We face another general election, and obviously, we can't envisage that anytime soon.
No, we can't. Would you vote to go into power with Fianna Fáil?
Look, I suppose my opinions on this have changed. I suppose I would have been of the view that we should let Fianna Fáil or let Sinn Féin form with independents and left-leaning parties, as they said that they would. But it looks like Sinn Féin have failed in that regard in trying to get the numbers together. Obviously, Fianna Fáil have ruled out talking with Sinn Féin, as we have since prior to the election. That doesn't leave many options.
No, so go on, answer my question.
I believe a government has to be formed, Damien, but, it won't be just down to Fine Gael or Fianna Fáil to form that government. It will have to involve smaller parties and or independents, and if that can't be done, well, then we do face another general election.
So you could be in government with Matt Shanahan?
Look, we could. I don't know what the makeup of any future government or negotiations or talks. It's all hypothetical at this stage, Damien. But look, I do believe that the government or that the country needs a strong and stable government going forward. It needs, it doesn't need a confidence and supply arrangement. It needs a majority, and obviously that will be the goal to achieve that. We've seen that, I believe, and I know from people that I've been speaking to and have been contacting me off their own back, that they believe that, the Taoiseach and the ministers are doing an exceptional job in this time of crisis. And I certainly believe they have been, but, there's a finite time on how long that can last, because obviously, legislation, any future legislation that needs to be passed has to be passed by, a new government involving the new Seanad.
Yeah, and yet there's so many questions, and obviously the importance of journalists asking these questions is there, isn't it, John? Because, like, for example, some people would say the old adage, the Senate is jobs for the boys, but in terms of the HSE, I suppose how things have operated, the fact that the HSE didn't send anybody over to China to check that equipment before they came in, the fact that Paul Cullen has an article in the Irish Times saying Ireland has struggled to protect nursing homes. For example, only 10 days ago there was only 4 nursing homes with COVID. Now there's 50. So there are issues and questions to be asked, and I agree with you in general. The government is doing very well, but there's the importance of questions to be asked it remains there, doesn't it? Yeah.
Just to be clear in relation to the PPE, and you're on about the HSE sending officials obviously over to China. You obviously know that the difficulties involved in travel restrictions that are in place at the moment.
Yes.
And 80% of the supply that did come from China, as Paul Reid, the CEO of the HSE, said yesterday or Saturday in a press conference, is totally within the guidelines of the World Health Organization. So there was an issue with 20% of it, mainly relating to masks.
Yes.
So, those pictures that you would have seen circulating on social media last week in relation to, the gowns and that, they were actually not from that consignment that came from China at all.
Right,
they were from donations that were given in good faith by people and companies across the country. So I think we need to be careful, and we're well aware of fake news that has been circulating on social media as well, and we do need to go to the trusted sources there in relation to information on COVID-19 and what we must do.
Can I ask you a very specific question, 2 specific questions? Will you still maintain your job as a teacher, or what happens now?
No, I have to take a career break from teaching. What happens in relation to the timing of that, I don't know, because we don't know when.
Yes, of course.
When the Senate starts and when the teaching ends. But that's something that I have to get on about now immediately after finishing this phone conversation.
Okay, Anna and Olivia have texted in to say congratulations. Can I ask you another specific question? Who's going to get your council seat?
No, I don't have an answer to that question as of yet. There's a number of considerations that have to be.
Who will you be? Will you be making? Will you be making a recommendation?
I will in time, but look, obviously the local party has to meet, and there's issues in relation to that with the current situation that we're in relation to meetings, and there's an issue then in relation to meetings of the council. So look, I don't think anything is going to be happening on that in the short term. I think it's going to take a little while to come to a resolution in relation to those matters. Senator
John Cummins, congratulations and the very best of luck.
Thanks very much, Damien. Much appreciated.
And mind yourself and your family. Take care. All the best, John. Damien, so much for lockdown and social distancing. I've just come back from my walk. I couldn't believe some people out walking us, the tradesmen going in and out of a house, no masks on, gloves on them. This is an emergency. Why aren't people dealing with it a lot more seriously, said this person. Other people saying, so Fianna Fáil are going to deny the people of Ireland what they voted for and keep Sinn Féin out. Others saying, thanks, Regina, for that advice regarding the rent, and that I will do that. Vinny for Armour Road says Dots should put on his T-shirt that he bought in holidays in the late 70s. It read Super Dot. Congratulations on your award. Keep your texts and comments coming in, please. 083 3333 975. Now, in a minute, I'm going to be talking to Thomas Keary from Keary's Antiques about a lot of people are looking around their house. They're doing cleaning. They're finding antiques. They're finding things they haven't found in years in their house. Let us know if you've anything there. Any questions for Thomas, please. 051 846 123 083 3333 975. Brian Power texted in to say well done to Jim and to Brian and to Dots, and congratulations there from Sandra. Delighted for you. Congratulations, John. Delighted for you, says Sandra. Now we've got Thomas. Good morning, Thomas.
Good morning, Damien. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. I'm good. I was just looking at some figures over the weekend. It's now one of the most popular programmes on telly because obviously so many people are in during the day. The Antiques Roadshow and all antique shows. People are. It's really caught hold again. You've launched an interactive learning series called Lockdown and Learn. Tell us about this, please.
Yeah, so what we did is we put out a video a couple of weeks ago with, I suppose, in mind that we may be locked down. And we asked people to reach out to us if they had any kind of topics that they would like us to cover. We said that we were going to cover a whole range of things all around antiques and vintage pieces, whether it's in terms of how you want to identify pieces from certain periods, eras, how to upcycle pieces, how to maintain pieces. And we're going to talk about a whole range of things. So we only launched it there last week, and we're going to do kind of 1 to 2 episodes a week, and we've had a huge reaction to it, which has been great.
And how can people access this? I think is it Facebook, or how are they getting in touch, or Instagram?
Across all our social channels, so Facebook, Instagram TV, we're on LinkedIn as well, but across all our social channels, and we've had a huge reach, and we've had questions from all across Ireland and even further afield, which has kind of blown us away.
What about people that are finding stuff in their attics now? They're finding stuff in the back of their sheds. They haven't cleaned out the sheds in years. Yeah. And suddenly they go, oh, look at that. I wonder, is that worth a few bob? That seems to be happening, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It does. We've been getting questions from lots of people. They've been finding stuff in their attics, and they've been looking at, I suppose, what can they do with it as well, in terms of if they want to upcycle it, if they want to repair it, or even just what can they do with it. So people are finding things. They're kind of doing the job that they've been putting off for years, and I suppose that's kind of why this has been. Why we've had such a good feedback, you know.
And it's difficult, obviously, Thomas, because you can't go to the people's houses. They're sending in pictures and they're maybe describing the item, but sometimes you need to physically see an item. So I presume you're only able to give a kind of a ballpark figure or some indication of how much it might be worth.
That's good. We do get lots of photos on a daily basis into it, but we would be able to give an idea in terms of, I suppose, what it is, where it's from, but obviously ideally the best thing is obviously that you want to look and feel something to kind of really gauge it. But I suppose what we've kind of done in this series and what we are doing week on week is that we're basically trying to show people how you can look at pieces and kind of see pieces from certain eras and little tips and tricks in terms of, I suppose, say for instance, that one topic we did was, I suppose, what's the difference between a Victorian chair and Edwardian chair. So people might not know that. So we're kind of covering little kind of tips and tricks because
well, go on.
Lots of knowledge in our team here between Rhodey and Anne.
Yeah.
So we're.
Well, tell me just on that in 60 seconds. Tell me the difference between those two chairs.
So I suppose if you look at a Victorian chair, it's from the 1800s, and if you look at the back of a Victorian chair, the back would have been more curved and more rounded, because Queen Victoria herself was more curved and rounded as a lady, trying to be as PC as possible here. Whereas if you look at an Edwardian chair, Edwardian chairs are from the 1900s, and they're more straight at the back. They're less curved, and the legs are more straight, because King Edward himself, he was tall and straight himself. So there's a quick tip, trick you can take from it if you're looking at chairs, if you find some chairs at home.
Super. Listen, Antiques Ireland is the word, or two words to put in, but keep the word together, Antiques Ireland on Facebook or Instagram, and they'll get you through that. And obviously to go on your website as well. I know there's ways of getting onto there, yeah?
Yeah, and if people want to get in touch with us and if they want us to cover some topics or if they want to reach out to us, we're more than happy to help them.
Lovely. Thomas, thank you, and to you and all your family, please say hello and stay safe, okay?
Will do. Thanks, Damien.
Thanks, lovely to talk to you there. Thomas Keary there from Keary's Antiques, that new interactive learning series, Lockdown and Learn. I had a look at it there over the weekend. It's actually very good, so have a look at that. Some texts in from people. My partner and I are working in a retail area. I work evenings and weekends, so we don't need childcare. I was working the weekend and a woman came up past the lines marked clearly on the floor. I asked her nicely, could she please move back beyond the line for her safety, for my safety and hers. She got angry with me. She started giving out very rudely. I was very upset and I couldn't stop crying all day in work and when I went home. Most people are just so nice. It takes just one person to upset and destroy someone. People need to stop and think, I would love nothing better than stay at home with my family, stay safe. So for everybody that's going into shops today, everybody that is thinking about all those working in supermarkets, please, please, please think of them. J.W. Callahan is 83 and he texted, I wonder could you play One Day at a Time by Gloria? I'm going to do that tomorrow, J.W. I want to wish you the very best. Marie has texted in to say well done to John, and so has Andrew as well. But today, to end the programme, I'm going to play a song which I just had in my mind for ages. I want to thank Julie for her production today. Thanks everybody in WLR. Thank you all the listeners for your texts and comments over the last 24 hours and over the weekend.